Morning. Welcome to the CO visit. Colin here. Hope everyone's doing well. And of course, got my trusty coffee right here. And speaking of that, if you have your beverage of choice right there close to you, why don't we make a toast? A toast and a clinking of glasses to new light and to Stephen Lett. Health. Well, that certainly is the buzz that's going around the community right now, and not just our community, but within the ranks of Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah has now decided, after thousands and thousands of years, that enough time has passed and the meaning has faded, and so his true worshipers can now engage in which once was a pagan gesture. It's okay now. So as Jehovah's Witnesses, you can clink glasses now. You can call for a toast at a wedding or an anniversary, whatever it might be. Now, what we want to focus on with this little chat this morning, because I've already had comments of certain Jehovah's Witnesses, because I always etiquette or label, I should say, or pin or label Jehovah's Witnesses with a hashtag when I make these videos, and they're playing it off like it's no big deal, right? Well, the governing body said that they're, years ago, they said that they're not infallible and they're not inspired. Yes, they did. Absolutely. But let's take that one step further. If that's what they said, and that's what you're using as kind of a comeback, you're using that as a defense, well, then your critical thinking skills should take you one step farther. Just like with what this issue with all of a sudden toasting being okay now, and you're saying as a defense that, well, they told us back in 2013 that they're not infallible and they're not inspired. In fact, they didn't just say that. They said that until Christ returns, they're not even sure who this faithful slave actually is. So it's not even 100% sure at all that they are the faithful and discreet slave. So you're getting your spiritual guidance and you're living your lives according to the literature and the indications that a group of men are giving you, that have said that they're not infallible, they're not inspired by God, and they're not even sure if they are the governing body. So the question there is, taking your critical thinking one step farther, my friends, why are you listening to them? Why are you listening to them at all about anything? As you see the dominoes falling one by one by one, what comes next? So let me just read you what was rule. This was law. This came from Jehovah. This was intrinsically wrapped up with your surviving your salvation as of a few days ago. And now it's not. And these are just a few. There are literally hundreds of citations, publications, watchtowers, books that talk about these once pagan customs, including toasting, these are just a few that I isolated, just as an example. I mean, just picking them out of the air. Here's one from the governing body, supposedly. Toasting today may not be viewed by many as a religious gesture. Still, there are valid reasons why Christians, and we're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Why Christians do not share in toasting, which has a religious background and even now can be viewed as asking heaven, they say in quotation marks, for a blessing, as if seeking aid from a superhuman force. Okay, that's one. Here's another one. This is an article that was entitled, "What Happens at Jehovah's Witness Weddings?" And then there was a list of things: dress code, food, dancing, and then there's a subtitle that says, "Will there be a toast?" Will there be a toast? No. Right out the gate, no. Jehovah's Witnesses do not toast because the practice has roots in false religious customs. The witnesses express their good wishes to the couple in other ways. Now, they didn't say there, as Stephen Lett in his governing body update number 4, possibly or may have had. No, it says the practice has roots. And yes, it does. Absolutely. Toasting had roots in pagan and religious rituals. Nobody's questioning that. It's not a question of, oh, maybe it did, we're not sure now. No, it does, because they're asking the gods for a favor. Everybody knows that. The issue is, in 2025, it doesn't mean that anymore. Nobody cares. Here's another one. How should true Christians view toasting? The International Handbook on Alcohol and Culture says that toasting probably comes from ancient pagan customs in which a sacred liquid was offered to the gods. This was done in exchange for a wish, a prayer, summarized in words such as long life or to your health. In ancient times, people used to raise their cups to ask their gods for a blessing. But that is not how Jehovah provides blessings. And then they cite John 14:6 and John 16:23 as examples. So within these articles, the same article, the governing body likened obeying this rule to not be involved in toasting and other things that were religious or pagan customs in the past to Satan misleading us by confusing us about what's right and wrong. And then they used as an example the golden calf that the Hebrews worshipped while Moses went up to the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments. That's how serious it was. And so what did they cite about that? Well, the people thought because Aaron was leading them, Moses' brother, and Aaron said, well, Moses hasn't come back. We don't know what happened to Moses, so let's make this golden calf, right? And the people convinced him, and he said, okay. And they thought they were doing something that pleased Jehovah. They thought that it was okay. And it turned out that in the end, this is a disaster, right? Many of those people who engaged in worshiping the golden calf were exterminated by God. They lost their lives. So the governing body was likening it to that. That's how serious it was, right? So not toasting and not celebrating birthdays and not getting together for Christmas and exchanging gifts and not hitting a piñata with a stick, all of those things, your very worship to Jehovah and salvation were at stake or are at stake. That's how serious it is. Until they say it isn't, right? That's how easy it is. With just one 17-minute video, something that put your eternal salvation at stake is now okay because Stephen Lett said it is. And once again, the governing body has decided, after prayerful consideration, the governing body has decided that toasting is okay. I'll drink to that. So, Jehovah's Witnesses, what's the point that I want to get to? Let's get right to the point now. Because in all of these articles that I just cited to you, it wasn't just talking about toasting. It was talking about mainly toasting, and it was talking about birthdays, and it was talking about Christmas and Easter. All of those celebrations. So they used the same reasoning for all of those practices. Toasting, Easter, Christmas, birthdays. True Christians do not take part in them because they have roots. It's all the same reasoning. They have roots in false religious or pagan customs. And so if you watched the governing body update number 4 with Stephen Lett, what is the reasoning that he gave? Why is toasting okay now? This is the part that you have to pay attention to. And then use your critical thinking to apply it to everything else. What's the reasoning? The reasoning is times have changed. The same thing they used with the beards and the pants and all of that. Times have changed. Viewpoints have changed. Nobody views toasting as a religious ritual anymore. Nobody views toasting as a pagan ritual asking the gods for favors. You're simply giving good wishes to other people, health, a good marriage, things like that. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, right? So they said, just use your conscience now. So if you take that one step farther, when it comes to Christmas, Easter, birthdays, the exact same thing applies. But what's the difference? What's the difference? Why do you keep not celebrating Christmas? Or at least not even celebrating Christmas, but getting together on that day with your family and Easter and birthdays. It's because somebody on the governing body hasn't told you that you can do it yet. Somebody on the governing body hasn't given you permission yet. So you're just going to wait there, even though one of those things that was grouped into it for the exact same reason, and they gave the exact same reasoning, well, this one you can do now, so there's one less out of the group. Toasting has now been moved from this group to that group. You can do it now because people don't view it that way anymore. It's not viewed that way. Well, guess what, my Jehovah's Witness friends? Neither is Easter, neither is Christmas, and neither are birthdays. Nobody sees any of those as pagan or religious customs anymore. Nobody cares. Everybody knows. Everybody. Everybody. Ask anybody off the street. Mormon, Adventist, Evangelical, Catholic, anybody. Everybody knows that December 25th is not the real date of Jesus' birth. Everybody knows that. Nobody cares. People who are not even Christian get together and celebrate birthdays. Over in places, countries as remote as like Japan, celebrate Christmas. Why? Because it has no significance for them. It's just a time to get together, exchange gifts. So it's become something that's not even Christian anymore. It's just a time to get together, to be with family, be with friends, give gifts to each other. And you know what? Most people, at least in the Western world, you have that time off anyway. Depending on what your job is or what your work schedule is, that's a holiday for most people anyway. You have it off one way or another. Otherwise, if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you truly believe this, you would tell your employer, you know what, I'm not going to be off on this day. I want you to schedule me on, even if you had it off, you would tell them, no, I'll switch with someone else. I'm going to work on December. You don't do that. You take the day off, right? So in a roundabout way, you're taking the benefit from it. You say you don't worship it or you don't celebrate it, and yet you take the benefit of being off. So in practice, you're already doing it anyway. Stop fooling yourself. But it's just that within the Jehovah's Witness culture, everybody is so brainwashed and controlled by the governing body that nobody does anything. They can't think for themselves because Stephen Lett or Garrett Lush or Gages or Gayless, whatever it is, Gages Glockington or whoever, hasn't told you how to think yet or what you can do. All it takes is a little bit of reasoning and critical thinking. If they allowed you to wear beards now because the view of beards, according to them, and the fashions have changed, so now it's okay, you can wear a beard. If you can toast now, because yes, toasting once was a religious ritual and it was pagan, but people don't view it that way anymore, so it's okay. It doesn't, it's not a big deal. Jehovah's okay with that. The same thing applies to Christmas and birthdays and everything else. And ask yourself this, Jehovah's Witnesses. How much longer until the next one ticked off the list, is maybe birthdays or Christmas? Don't say, oh, they won't do that one, because you never imagined they would do this one. You never imagined beards would be allowed. You never imagined you wouldn't have to wear a suit coat at the Kingdom Hall. You never imagined you wouldn't be counting time anymore, or women could wear pants. The dominoes are falling one by one by one by one. How much longer until Christmas is a conscience matter? How much longer until birthdays are a conscious matter? They said you can use piñatas, but think about that. There's only one place and there's only one instance in time when piñatas are used, during birthdays. I mean, logic. So people now you're going to use a piñata just for the sake of using a piñata? They're used for birthdays. So you won't celebrate a birthday, but you'll play with a piñata, which is only used at birthdays. I mean, Critical thinking, people. Reason, logic. Start thinking for yourselves. So, my question is, this has become like the wrestler, if you're a wrestling fan or ever were a wrestling fan and you remember Goldberg, who's next? Right? What's next? Which former pagan practice will fall in the line of dominoes? How much longer until they tick birthdays off the list? How much longer until they tick Christmas off the list? How much longer until we're not going to practice disfellowshipping anymore? That'll be personal for each person. If you want to personally disfellowship someone, that's your choice. You can do that and separate from somebody. But it won't become a practice anymore. How much longer until blood transfusions are also just a personal choice for each person? That's between you and God. How much longer? Well, as they say for, today, the popular saying, wait for it, wait for it. It's coming. I don't know in which order. They're starting with the smaller ones first, but I've got a feeling that the upcoming ones will be related to the toasting avenue. So toasting, birthdays, Christmas, they're doing it little by little. They're spacing it out enough to let people process it, let them get used to it. I know some of y'all out there are already having like toasting parties. So I know, come on, don't fool yourselves. All of you want to celebrate Christmas. All of you want to have lights on your deck or porch. Deep down inside, you like it. Come on, admit it to yourself. And it's just going to go right down the list. Do you see it coming? Are you hearing it through the grapevine? Well, if you're still here at this point, thank you very much, everybody, for watching this video. Thank you always for your support of commenting, liking. Also, as I posted a link to the GoFundMe regarding my health issues right now. We're still waiting for the results of the biopsy. And I always want to take the time to thank those, because there were some anonymous ones, so I don't know who those are, but people that already donated, and that's still open if you wish to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting me and my family. Patty, thanks you as well. And we'll see you on the next CO visit. Be blessed, everybody. Until the next one.